Hey YouTube, in this video I'm going to be doing a deck profile on my updated Seal Dragon deck. So Seal Dragons are probably the Kagero subclan that sees almost no play nowadays. They were good in their time, like when they just came out. People would mix them up with Dauntless Drive Dragon. But they have their own break right now, so I think I did a deck profile on this, but I did update it for Stride format slightly. It is changed. It is set up also to counter certain decks now, but really, Seal Dragons are, in my opinion, in playtesting them, they do have a lot of really difficult matchups, and you do have to play your cards flawlessly to get the best out of what they do. You can't just randomly point and click retire stuff thinking that it'll help you, because it just depends on what the opponent's running also. So, for Weathercloth, this is a Seal Dragon Break Ride. It's really good, doesn't use any counterblasts. When you ride over it, the Vanguard gets 10,000, and you choose up to 2 of your opponent's rear guards, retire them, then the opponent looks at 4 cards from the top of the deck, searches for up to 2 grade 2 units, and calls them to separate R. So, the opponent can choose not to call any grade 2s, or they may just not get any grade 2s, but it's still in their best interest to try to call the grade 2s, because otherwise they're just straight up going -1, because you break ride, so you -1, but then you kill 2 other things, so you minus them too. So that's the difference of -1 to the opponent. So he's pretty good. And mainly calling the grade 2s is basically what Seal Dragons want. That's what the whole focus of the deck is about. It's about the opponent having grade 2s for them to do certain things, like either prevent them from intercepting or just gaining effects or power off of the grade 2s. So an example of that is the Hellfire Seal Dragon Blockade Inferno. His limit break skill is he can special counterblast 2 Seal Dragons to retire all the opponent's grade 2 rear guards, and he gets 10,000 power. So he just basically blows up all the grade 2s that they called. So you can see how this break ride would just straight up be effective in that regard. So I am running 3 of this just because it's Kagero, it retires stuff, and it gains power off of it. So that's them. And then I am running 2 of the Seal Dragon Georgette. Georgette is from Brilliant Strikes promo box topper. So like I said, it's from a year ago. I was never using it back then, but it's actually pretty good now because it's good against the Messiah Link Jokers because it can counterblast 1 to unlock a locked card, and that's just straight up a Vanguard skill. That's not a limit break or anything. And his limit break skill is actually pretty decent. So when he attacks a Vanguard, he gets 5,000 for each of the opponent's grade 2s until the end of the battle. And if he has 2 or more rear guards that are grade 2, he gets the critical. So usually he'll have the critical, unless they only have 1 grade 2 for some reason. So you can see how this combo works pretty well too because of that, because they get to call up to 2 grade 2s. So typically Seal Dragons will continuously blow up the opponent's back row so they don't have any really good boosters. That way they can't mount a strong offense against them. So that way Seal Dragons are very defensive in that sense. And next we've got 4 Seal Dragon Corduroy. Corduroy is just way important for Seal Dragon. Like, this is their main bread and butter unit. This is their Blaster Dark. This is their whatever you want to call it. So he can special counterblast a Seal Dragon when he's placed on VRR to choose one of the opponent's rear guards and retire it. So he can just straight up kill anything. A starter, he can kill grade 0, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. But usually you're going to want to kill either the grade 0 or the grade 1, the starter or a grade 1, because his other effect is after you retire it, the opponent looks at 4 cards and calls a grade 2. They can choose up to 1 grade 2, so they don't have to call if they don't want it, but usually they always will. So basically swaps a 1 or 0 for a 2, or nothing, which in that case you just get a lot more advantage for just a counterblast 1. And then next, for Jacquard, he's a 12k Seal Dragon attacker, just because there's not a whole lot better stuff to run besides this guy from Brilliant Strike. So 3 Flame Star Seal Dragon Knight. You can actually run 4 of him and 3 Jacquard if you want. If you just want to be more annoying and just ensure that they can't intercept that whole turn. So basically his effect is Vanguard or Rear Guard. He can counterblast 1, and basically the opponent can't intercept. So I was thinking that this card would make a really good Legion mate if Seal Dragons ever got a Legion thing, but whatever. I thought it was just pretty good because it's Vanguard Vanguard. But anyway, 3 of him, just good. So they have lots of grade 2s and they can't do anything with them. Grade 1s, 4 Rhino Cross is Seal Dragon Sentinel, and it's original type Sentinel, so it can block anything. 2 Calamity Tower is just really good for Kagero, a deck that's kind of slow, so they need their draws to try to keep advantage. So 2 Calamities. This is actually the only non-Seal Dragon in the whole deck. So only 2, so it shouldn't really affect any issues with counterblasting. So next, 3 Seal Dragon Sprite Mulciber. It's good at 3. I mean, you can run 4. I would actually probably run 4, but it's because I wanted to run 9 grade 3s for stride fodder. But it's good because you'll be striding early enough where, I mean, if you have it, yes, your Georgette and your Inferno are good. And your break rate can be done at like 1 or 2 damage or 0 damage potentially, or even 3. But it's good if you have it on the field. Otherwise, it's not terrible. If you don't have it, you'll just be striding anyway. So, and then the new card they got in the recent set 3 was Seal Dragon Gariserge. So this guy basically, when he boosts a Vanguard with Seal Dragon, or no, actually it's when he boosts, if you have a Vanguard with Seal Dragon, basically the opponent can't intercept, and the boosted unit gets plus 2k for each of the opponent's grade 2 units. So usually it makes him like an 11k boost or 9k boost, and they can't intercept. So usually with Seal Dragons, the focus is always just attack the Vanguard. They can't really block it with their field, so yeah, and you just keep blowing up their back row, making them have weak, lousy columns unless you're up against a Paladin or something. So 4 of this, it's a really good support card they got. For the trigger lineup, I am running the 4 draw. Seal Dragons do have the Margle clone. 4 of the new critical that they got. So they finally don't have to run their stands anymore. Yeah, so this thing basically is your way to unflip. So if you place it on R, you need to unflip just for whatever. You can unflip for each of the opponent's grade 2 units. So it's really good with the Weather Cloth, Break Ride, with Georgette and all that kind of stuff if you're going to go for a final push. But usually you'll just use it as a shield. And then just 4 more Seal Dragon critical, and then the 4 Seal Dragon heals. So standard 8, the 4-8-4 for Kagero usually is a very popular one. Some people do the 7-5. I don't really understand that. And then the 8-5, I mean the 6-6, which is good for defensive decks like this one. And then Terry Cloth is the starter. He's just the best starter for Seal Dragon. He's been their starter from the beginning, and he's still their best starter. So why am I not running stride units? Because I am running the 9 grade 3s, and the deck is still not 100% stride focused. Speaking of stride, so for the stride deck, I am running the 2 Root Flare Dragon just for some easy retire. He doesn't have to use Counterblast. They don't stride enough, so you only need 2 copies, because you'll usually stride something else before him. Usually the first stride will be one of these, Mahmud, or something who works actually pretty well with Seal Dragon is Divine Dragon Knight Zom, because he combos well with Corduroy and those kind of cards, but it does turn it into a Counterblast 2 to kill 2 things. So, and then the last one is the 2 Mustafa. I'm just trying him out. A lot of people, no one really plays this guy, surprisingly. I'm only using 2. Obviously, he's designed for you to use 4 of him. What I like about him is he doesn't have to flip himself up. He can Counterblast 1 and unflip any of the others, but usually it's in your best interest to flip one of him up because you're going to want multiple copies of him to be able to do his retire effect. So he can retire, basically it's Counterblast 1, unflip something in the G zone. He can retire our opponent's rear guard for each face-up card named Mustafa, so basically him. But I'm only running 2, so he's just gonna retire 1, and then usually he'll just, like, if the unit that he chooses, which is usually the Vanguard, will hit, he can unflip a damage. So essentially retire something for no counterblast. Not really all that good compared to something like Root Flare, which just blows up a whole column, but he can get rid of something that's kind of annoying, like the Vanguard booster or something like that. So, or even a grade 2 if they have way too many grade 2s. So yeah, just 2 of him, and he can unflip, but it's still not that good. I'd probably run 4 Root Flare, but I only have 2. But anyway, guys, that was the Stride deck for the Seal Dragons. Let me know what you guys think of Seal Dragons. They have a lot of tough matchups right now. So hopefully they'll get like a Legion or something in the future. But anyway, guys, that's Seal Dragons, and hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.